Hello. Good morning. How's everyone on this beautiful day? All right, good. It is a beautiful energy in here, and thank you for having me. It is just such great beauty to be here always with you and this community and its love and its passion and joys. I get to contemplate that all the way on the drive here. And on the drive here today, I was playing tango music, which might not seem very reverential, but it is. It's full of passion, it's full of life, it's about dance and movement, and really embodying a truth, which is that love is all there is. That this present moment, this movement of life, is all there is. Before I get started on this rather big topic of truth, I just want to declare and redeclare and re-remember the truth right now, and that the words spoken in this service today that preceded me and that are coming through me now, and that will occur afterwards downstairs as we share food and books, maybe return a book, or not, that as we move on throughout the week and this day, that this sermon stays alive, that this moment of wisdom and this sharing keeps persisting, because the truth just does keep going on and on. It is not necessarily a touch point or a moment in time or someone gets to say it and we put it neatly away, but that we're all contributing to it, that it is a movement, a body comprised of us, our actions, our words. And so thank you for being those words, those bodies today and tomorrow and after tomorrow. And in wrestling with a topic as large as truth, I just need to put a couple things aside. Facts matter, proof and evidence matter, and I want to honor those for the exact role that they play in our lives in constituting a greater truth. But it's not necessarily what I'd like to really focus on today. I want to take just a little niblet here. We're going to make a pie crust today. We want a big pie. We want this deliciousness of life and to feast upon it. But I think we all know that sometimes, maybe it's just me, but if you ever make a pie, sometimes you kind of screw up just one thing. And I screw up the crust a lot. So not enough butter, too dry, I put the filling in too soon. And so I want to just focus on the crust of this deliciousness we call life, because it undergirds everything. It's kind of the first thing that we see when it comes out of the oven, and it's the first thing we get to bite into and feel the texture of. And that the truth to me, and what I want to review and look at today and just explore together, is greater than our logic, than our facts, than our evidence. That the truth in and of itself as we experience it is paradoxical. That in one place you can say to yourself, as I gain greater wisdom, I realize I know less. That is a truth that just kind of inverts on itself and has an immense beauty and power to it and a freedom to it. But it's illogical. And the truth can be rather illogical. And to hold that in our hearts and in our presence and our being and for each other is what I would like to explore today. The Tao says the truth, once established, can never be uprooted. The truth, once embodied, can never be stripped away. There is the first paradox of it all. That truth in one way always persists and exists. It cannot be uprooted. It cannot be stripped away. Yet it is continually evolving. It is a growing body. One of the primary means and demonstrations of that is, especially for those of us in the Abrahamic traditions, just watching the evolution of God. Ultimate truth embodied as God. The Old Testament God is rather different than the New Testament God. This idea of Elijah and this very still small voice in the beginning in the Old Testament or in the Hebrew Bible, and that this God was elusive, bit of a mystery. Then there's dramatic God, lots of smiting. some solid judgment. And then there's the God that suffers alongside us. God that comes in some belief systems in the form of Jesus. That God is here with us. That suffering is our path to our salvation, to our freedom, to our greatest life. And even in the Islamic tradition where God is the bringer of order and justice. And when we stop and think that God is evolving, that this consciousness, this depth, this ultimate truth, even if you don't believe in God, that even evolution itself is happening, that there's this constant pushing, lifting up of life, of something new, of creativity, that as that's happening, then we must be experiencing that too. That is the truth in our lives too. It is happening for us and as us. Whether we're conscious or unconscious of it, awake to it or fighting it, or thoroughly asleep. That this force, this truth, this livable energy field, this life is living through us. So, in this evolution, one may wonder, how do we move alongside it? How are we in relationship and in alignment with this thing that is for our greatest good? And even when it feels like it's not for our greatest good, how can we at least take the lessons that come along the way? As I was preparing for this talk, I was really moved by, and it just kept popping into my head, Picasso. Picasso once said, every child is an artist. Problem is how to remain an artist when they grow up. Every one of us has the truth. You watch a child, it is very much the same truth we are seeking as adults. How do we remain so as we grow up? And that's the crust I want to talk about today. That's the pie crust I want to bake together. What are these qualities? What are these things and tools that we can at least have as touch points throughout our day, our experiences, and just reconnect to the deeper truth, the all-knowing? I'm very much a mnemonic person, so forgive me, but I have a 5-letter acronym that I'm going to be working off of today for truth. All right, it goes trust, relationships, understanding. Well, I'm at the S, right? No, it's truth. I did it backwards. Trust, relationship, understanding, T, thank you, transparency, and humility. Humility, thank you for showing me once again. Hey, you have to dance with it, right? And sometimes you step on some toes, but sometimes you have a hell of a time. So let's start with trust. For me, truth is this continual invitation to trust. That's the first thing. I always wonder, what am I believing right now that would have me have this experience, whether good or bad? It is certainly that we are, when you stop and think about it, creatures of trust. Just think of our bodies. I'm hearing breathing right now. The in-breath happens. Then our body trusts, processes, takes a pause, and we know there's an out-breath. And in that pause where there is no breath at all, the body still continues to trust that there will be another in-breath. That all these things are happening, the billions of cells that we have in our body that count as much as the stars out there in the universe, are all working in concert together in this supreme foundation of trust. It all works together somehow. Do we think all of our cells are filled with self-doubt right now? Are they questioning the next cell, handing them over an oxygen molecule, saying, what the hell is this? No. And that to me is kind of the grace and beauty of life. To take a simple example and just take note that life in and of itself is foundationally built on trust. That we come together here, these chairs are placed by somebody. They were built by somebody. They're holding our weight, and we trust that we are here and held. That this community of love, of ineffable presence and intention has created this space. This is trust. So our invitation is, how do we trust? When something comes up for us, are we curious? And do we ask ourselves, am I really in a place right now where I am trusting myself, my inner wisdom, the process itself, that my journey is taking me to where I need to go, and regardless of the curves, sometimes 2 steps back, that's part of the dance too. Not every step in a dance is forward. That everything is working for our greatest good. I'm a big fan of the 30-day mental diet. And one of the pieces he says, you have discovered that within you, that within you which thinks is not something isolated from the rest of your life, but instead is an activity and expression of life within you. Life that is fully trusting is living deeply within you. And as you come to realize that your mind is not your mind, but an aspect of infinite mind, you will find that all too often you have tried to go your own way without recognizing the greater potential that is always available to you. Truth is always inviting us to trust more and more and more. It is the great stretch of life to keep extending ourselves into the unknown, into the magic of the unknown. Again, I reconnect you to that child that we all still are. The one that is still an artist. The one that is daring boldly to go and move forward and explore. That feeling of trust is still alive within us. The truth can never be uprooted. The truth can never be stripped away, as the Tao says. That is still fully alive within us. So the invitation is always to trust. And I'm not saying this is easy. No. But that's the beauty of the struggle. That's the beauty of the attempt. That's the act of truth. That truth in and of itself is not just an idea that you get to put neatly into your pocket, but it's an action. It's an action that says, try again. How about this step? It invites curiosity and exploration. So to me, one of the key ingredients in this foundation of relationship with truth is trust. And to just remain curious and trust in the process. So that to me is all even further baked in with the idea of, it's true, yes, for us. It's true in our lives. But when do we really get to practice truth? And that's the R word, relationships. That to me is where the rubber hits the road. Right? I think it was Jack Kerouac that said, he was enlightened until he went home for a week with his family. And he had been studying for months on a mountaintop in an ashram, and all of a sudden you're right back, There's Jack. He's all moody, and whatever labels got placed on him, he went right back. And I think that's the beauty of our humanity. But that we get to be each other's teachers. That is part of the process. That the truth lies between us. Again, not something you put neatly in your pocket, but something you get to create moment by moment and experience moment by moment. That's the richness of a community like this. We are getting to create a greater truth for ourselves. Even in our prayers, when we have a prayer partner, 2 or more are gathered, there's a third, we are inviting more truth. Every moment is an invitation for a relationship and greater truth. And through that comes my U word, understanding. And I share this because understanding is not necessarily something that is about grasping. It is not like a formula. It's not like, oh, this is how I live my life. It's not a collection of facts. Understanding is ineffable in a way. It is not crystal clear. It is being with somebody, but perhaps not fully agreeing. It is perhaps hearing something and not fully experiencing the same thing or having the same perspective. One can, through loving completely, understand. To me, that's where love comes really into play. You just can be there. Be you. Just be there. That's where understanding can happen, and that's where richness of relationships really play a part. Transparency. My favorite thing to do when visiting folks is to grab their music and their words and just take note that it really is all one thing. Singing that song, Raising the Veil. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. Transparency, that's what truth really pulls of us. It says, put down your walls. Put down these things you think you are. The truth is greater than that. It's not as finite to say, oh, you're an MD. No, you're more than that. You're a parent, yes, and that truth is this great, great run-on sentence with the word and. And paradoxically at the same time, where's my guy with the t-shirt? That truth is silence, right? Where is he? Where is he? There it is. A wise man once said nothing. Right? Thank you for a great laugh today, but that's so perfect because it's a run-on sentence and it somehow folds into a great silence, just like Elijah's experience of the great wisdom, the great presence that is God, that is truth, showing up so broadly and so deeply as to be silent. The last piece I want to share, so Raising the Veil, every time you think of that song, and certainly I will think of it and probably sing it to myself in the car on the way home, the idea of raising something so that there's no separation, to re-invite unity. That's what transparency to me really means in this acronym. To re-invite unity, that there's oneness. Again, reaffirming trust, this relationship with the divine in each other, this deepening understanding, so that we can just be more of ourselves. That artist within is being refound once again, as Picasso would hopefully say. And the last one for me is humility. Sometimes that shows up as humor. Having a good chuckle at ourselves, it might be the healthiest damn thing we could do. I find that humor, and if you find a good humorist, they are touching on truth like nobody's business. That we are this fun mix of the divine and the asinine. Right? And that's totally cool. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? You might see me drive out of here and wonder what a horrible driver he was. But his message was okay, like. And so there is this astounding ability and frankly an invitation of truth for us, and not to wear us down or make us smaller. Humility is not the same thing as humiliation. And I want to make that very clear distinction. It is not complete erosion of who you are and the gift that you are. But our invitation may be more to be more of who we are and therefore not have to put such great, fancy facades up. That we can strip that away because that's not necessarily the truth. Because the truth will never be uprooted. The truth might need some tending to the garden. We might need to do some heavy weeding, but the truth will never be uprooted. And so any veneer that we may have, yes, it won't be left until we are ready and blessing it for everything that it has served for us. But it will be stripped away. And what will remain that won't strip away is the divine that we are, that we always are. So the invitation from this sharing today is that truth is really an action. It is compelling us, it sometimes feels like it's impelling us or throwing us out there so that we are trusting, so that we're in relationships. Make a new friend this week. I'm going to try it like hell. I will. And for someone that's terribly shy, that's one of my greatest gifts, is to connect with people so that I can expand trust, so that I can expand my circle. I can expand my humility so that they can see more of who I really am, and so I can understand a perspective that is not necessarily mine and get to expand my definition of love. So that's our invitation this week. That's our invitation as we go downstairs. Somebody today offered me a cookie that they had. Thank you. What a courageous act that is. That reminds me of Picasso, that somebody can just be like that child and just hand it right over. And isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? So to truth, to living it this week, and onward and onward and onward, and to being the community of truth. And so it is. Amen.